Hi Jonathan.
Oh, hi Derin, good to see you.
Thanks as well. How are you doing? You good?
I'm very well, thank you my friend, very well.
Can you tell us a bit about Rockstar Hubs?
Sure, well Rockstar Hubs has just been the natural follow-on from Rockstar Mentoring Group, which I started 8 years ago now. And we're the UK's largest mentoring and now investment company for entrepreneurs. So what Rockstar Hubs is we've taken co-working, which is one of the fastest growing sectors now in London, with so many new businesses and so many startups here and wanting to start their business here in London, they need a place to work. So we're seeing a surge of companies that are providing desk space, full-time, part-time, hot desking. What Rockstar Hubs is we've taken our years of mentoring thousands of companies by our Rockstar mentors, who on average have started, built up, sold their own companies for 18 million quid. And we've opened a big space in the city where businesses now pay to be here full-time or part-time, but included in their co-working, they get access to either 6 hours of mentoring a month if they're full-time, or 3 hours of mentoring a month if they're part-time. And what we've now just launched is an in-house investment fund as well. So our first hub is now 85% full. We're looking to buy our second hub already. And inside the hub now, 40% of the companies that are here, we've actually already invested in, and we're dedicating a lot more time and energy to make them as successful as they possibly can be.
What's your personal story? How did you come about forming Rockstar Hubs in the group?
Sure, well I grew up in Hong Kong. The accent is Australian because after I was born in Hong Kong and spent the first few years of my life there, both of my parents are from Sydney, so we moved back as a child and I went to school and university in Sydney, Australia. I then had my first and really only career or job in finance. I was at Goldman Sachs for just under 5 years in private wealth management. And when I was at Goldman's, they have a fantastic mentoring program. So I was very fortunate enough to be part of that program, being mentored by a very, very senior chap in the company who was a partner of Goldman. A lot of people don't realise, but you work hard there once you've been given a partnership. It's a very rare thing to achieve, but you do very well if you get to that status. And he was someone who I wanted to be. And that's when people ask me, what's the difference between mentoring and coaching? A mentor is someone who has achieved what you want to achieve. And I had him for one-to-one for 3 hours every month for a year. And that was my first experience being mentored. My second experience was when I came to London over 10 years ago, and I wanted to get into investment property in London. I'd never done it before over here, so I found someone who had built an £8 million portfolio in 2 years, and I paid him to take me out and show me how to do what he did, because I wanted to do what he had done. So he gave me all of his contacts, the lenders, the solicitors, the builders, the management companies, and just having that team from day one, I was able to build a substantial portfolio in London in my first year. I then became a mentor for the same company. So I then started mentoring people in property and realized just how much I loved it. You know, if I built up a large portfolio and people were paying the company and the company was paying me to mentor these people. And then in 2007, I realized that there is such a demand for mentoring. Is anyone providing this for people in business? You know, is there a website that you can go to where it doesn't matter what sector you're in, you know, you're in the retail sector or you're in the bars and restaurants or you're in online e-commerce or you're a traditional B2B services company, can you go to one website and be able to choose the best mentor who has already done what you want to do and get them to mentor you one-to-one? So that's how Rockstar started, and we've had an up and down journey. I mean, we started really well. The recession was tough. I was screaming, you know, these companies need mentoring now more than ever, and I was determined and believing that, you know, we were going to have a great time in the recession, but the affordability of those companies to pay our fees wasn't there. So we lost money during the recession. We had a tough time, but we really bounced back strongly in 2011, and a lot of that was helped to our government. You know, David Cameron back then said, it's the small businesses who are going to get us out of this mess. It's not the big corporates. We need to be doing more to help new companies start, and we need to be doing more to help existing small businesses grow. And he said, I think mentoring is one of the key ways to do that. And we were contacted by government, and we've been doing a number of mentoring contracts for government since. And then that, of course, led to our wonderful opportunity now that we're dealing with the Chinese.
So can you tell me a bit more about how you're dealing with the Chinese at the moment?
Sure. So a couple of years ago now, there was an article on us in one of the national newspapers about a government-endorsed or backed company that was helping thousands of new businesses start. And that was read by a very, very wealthy Chinese gentleman who lives here in the UK. And what his companies do, he owns a number of companies, but one of the companies that he runs provides investment opportunities for wealthy Chinese who are keen to invest into the UK. So not just, of course, property and real estate, but also businesses. So they're always interested and are very, very keen to invest in fast-growing, innovative, exciting companies. So when we got together, I said to him, the best way to do this is to provide a hub, because I've invested in companies before privately, and the stats are, which a lot of people don't realize, 80% of companies that actually receive investment from crowdfunding or from an angel, etc., 80% of them, even when they get the money, go bust. And I've been a victim of that. I've invested money into companies which have gone bust. And the reason why is you can't get or you can't give enough meeting them for a board meeting once a month. If you let these young businesses or leave them, not all of them of course, some of them do very well, but if you leave them to their own devices, there's the money, don't stuff it up, I'll see you at the next board meeting, it's not enough. That business plan that they had and everything they said they were going to do usually turns out to be different in the real world. So I said to Peter, if we are going to have a number of businesses that we're investing in with the fact that we now can, we've raised a lot of money from China, we have to give them more than just a board meeting. So that was the really interesting part about the Rockstar Hub. So there are two types of clients in this hub. There are those who don't need investment, but they want a place to work from and they value mentoring, so they pay to be here full time. And then you've got our other clients who we have invested in, and we say to them, there's the money, there's your desk, no choice, you are going to be here, and we are going to gift you one of our big mentors who has made it already in your sector, and they are going to be incentivized by us to work very hard with you to grow this company as quickly as possible. So it really works because the businesses are happy, we're happy as new shareholders, our investors from China are very happy, and the mentors are very happy. So our vision is to continue to do more and more of that. As I said, we've now just done our 14th company here in the hub, but we're very, very keen to continue to increase the number of businesses we back and therefore start buying more hubs and having them all in there.
What's your vision like for the future for Rockstar Hubs and the group?
Well, I think it's a wonderful combination of the hubs, and then I'll start with the hubs. I've been involved with investment property for over 10 years now, so firstly, building a business based around London real estate is one sensible option. So, as I said, we're looking to buy our next hub right now, and all the properties that we take on from now, we'll want to acquire. And that's the core asset that we have. Inside those hubs, at the moment it's 40% of our businesses, but we'd like to increase that to 70%. So imagine you own a portfolio of properties where 70% of the people who occupy it you've invested in, you have equity in. And there are a couple of companies, there are only two in London already that do this, but their focus is only in specific areas of technology. And that's fantastic, that's their background, which is what they do, that's great. But we are able to invest in all sectors, and we have. The diversity of companies out there ranges from traditional retail to accountancy to innovative new technology, and the reason we're able to be diverse in our sectors is because we have mentors from all of those sectors who know how to grow those businesses fast. So the vision going forward, I'd love to get up to 3 hubs that we own, get to the sort of capacity and occupancy that we need, then we look to float the business. But what's very interesting coming up is we're very soon to launch the world's first international mentoring app. And obviously we can talk about that once the launch takes place, but that involves giving users the ability to download the app for free. They get mentored by some of the world's best entrepreneurs, so not just here in the UK, but from China, Australia, and the US, with other countries coming on board. And it allows them as users to also promote their business at the same time.
So some of our viewers, they're startups and entrepreneurs. What are some of the best advice and tips that you could give to them as an executive and someone who's had experience in the field?
Sure. I think for all startups, the most important thing, no matter what sector that you're involved in, is before you start spending the money that you think you need to spend first to be in business, firstly prove to yourself that you are building something that people are actually going to want. Spend the time to know and identify who is my customer. When this app is built, or when this product is ready to be sold, or when this service is ready to be sold, who on earth do I think is going to buy it? And that's an easy question. You can very easily identify who you think will be your perfect customers. But before you spend any money, go out and build a group or a network or a list of who those people are. And never before have people been so open to helping you. So 8 years ago when I started Rockstar, I knew who my clients were going to be. They were going to be business owners of a certain sector and a certain size. I built a list of 400 of them on LinkedIn. It took me hours, but I did it. It didn't cost me a penny. And then I invited every single one of them to an event being held in London, and I got the venue for free because I partnered with an accountancy company who were more than happy to have, up to 400 SMEs come into their office in return for them being able to give an introductory talk, and 100 of them showed up. And they were my perfect customers. And back then I was a bit younger than what I am now. And I said to them, look, I'm a young entrepreneur. This is what I've experienced in mentoring. And I told them about Goldman's, and I told them about my time in property and what I'd done. And I said, this is the idea that I'm looking to build. I didn't even have any mentors yet, but I asked them all a series of questions. And the first one was, do you think mentoring is a worthwhile activity? And 85 of them said yes. So that was a good feedback. And then I said, would you pay for mentoring? And they said, yes, they would. And then it came down to how much they would pay. And I left that meeting with 85 potential customers who had all said to me, if you can find me someone who has built up and sold a company in this sector, who can help and show me to achieve this, I'll happily pay the rates that you charge because I'm going to make a lot more money. And we started very successfully. So many startups spend the money. So if you talk about an app, it costs, and I can tell you because I'm building one right now, and it's not cheap to build a good functioning app. So many businesses spend the time building coding, to then go out and try and do market research. Whereas you can actually use softwares to show what the app will look like just by imagery. And it costs you nothing. So you can actually turn your idea of an app into an actual vision and use that to then go out and prove that you've got something that people want. Because the coolest thing is, if you speak to 100 people like I did, and 85 of them say, when this is ready, I would absolutely download it, it keeps you pretty motivated to get it done quickly, because once you're ready, you've got 85 customers. So that is the most, out of all the things I could say, that is the most important piece of advice. Prove you've got something that somebody wants.
And focusing on the subject of mentoring, what are the differences between not having a mentor and having a mentor, and the benefits?
Okay, great question. Learn from someone else's mistakes rather than your own. That's the core thing. There's a reason why. It's wonderful to see. Last year in this country, 567,000 new companies were registered on Companies House. So that doesn't include any of the sole traders, that is just limited companies set up, which was a record, absolute record. So there is a massive surge and increase in people wanting to start their own businesses, which is fantastic. but the stats on how many startups fail is still very high. Huge. I think the last time it was checked, I think 70% of them are finished in the first year and 50% of what remains are gone in the second year. And in 5 years' time, I think it's something like from all the people who started, there's less than 10% that are still there. And I need to check the exact stats, but it's about that line. Why is it so many startups fail? There's one reason alone. It's because they make mistakes. And when you're a startup, mistakes, and in life, whether you're a startup or not, mistakes cost us two massive things: money and time. Right? Mistakes cost us time, they cost us money. And they are the two biggest resources that we have. And when you're a startup, you've only got so much time because you've only got so much money. And if you spend the limited money that you've got on something and it doesn't work, i.e. you build the app and then no one wants it, or you have a service and you think that's the marketing strategy that's going to work for me, and you spend the marketing budget and no one signs up. You know, these are the typical reasons why companies fail. Or they think it's only going to cost them $20,000 to get up and running. $20,000 actually is $50,000. They run out of cash. No one will back them because they still don't have anything to prove. They have no proof of concept, and they have to give up. So what mentoring is, it's learning from someone else's mistakes. If you've got someone from the earlier stages who's already built up and sold a company for 18 million in your sector, telling you what you should be doing, and when they give you that advice, it's not because they've read about it, it's not because they've consulted on it before, it's because they've been through it themselves. So if you have a mentor, you are fast tracking your growth because of two reasons. The first one is you're learning from their mistakes, as I've said. The second thing is we at Rockstar make you accountable to do the work to achieve the goals. So every client that we have at Rockstar, the first meeting we have, we set with them a specific financial goal. So if we were mentoring your business, you'd come in for a first session, right? Usually it doesn't cost you anything, or if we do a special promotion with an established business, it's only £47 for the hour. And in that first session, you've already told us coming in what your challenges are and what you really want to achieve in your business. We've matched you with the right mentor. And we're going to say that hour, okay, this is what we're going to work to achieve over the next 6 months, and it's something real. You know, for example, your current sales are, $5,000 a month. I want to increase that to £8,000 a month over the next 6 months, and this is how I'm going to do it. Step one, this month, between now and our next session, I need you to do A, B, C, D. And when you come here, if you've done all that, then I can introduce you to these three guys, because that's what you need to have done first in order for me to give you the introduction, because you're not quite ready yet. And then every month, I remember my first mentor used to say to me, he'd give me about 3 to 5 things I had to do after each session, in between, homework if you will. And he'd finish off each meeting by saying, if you haven't done it, don't show up. And I love that, because you're being made accountable to fast track your growth by actually being told to do physical things to get it working.
In your journey, what have been some of the challenges and how did you overcome them?
The main challenge that we had was during the recession, when we were charging, typically clients were paying us £2,500 a month for 8 hours. So our rate was circa £300 an hour. And we would pay the mentor £1,000 from that £2,500. So that's how we started. The client was paying £2,500, our margin on that was £1,500. So the biggest challenge we had during the recession is the affordability. People couldn't afford that rate. But what I didn't do is I didn't change it. I kept that as a premium offering, but then I adapted by offering more cost-effective products, still under the Rockstar brand. So rather than people having to pay for 8 hours, we did a special hourly rate where we dropped our rate from $300 an hour down to $250. And we said to people, look, if you can only just afford 1 hour a month or 2 hours a month, then we can offer that to you. So that was a crucial thing. That was a key thing as a challenge that we overcame during the recession. It still killed our cash flow. So then, of course, the next challenge is, well, what costs can you eradicate in order to keep in business. You know, we had to reduce the size of our team, try and motivate the small team that was still left, and just continue to try and bide our time. And I tell you, I remember saying to myself at the end of 2010, after having lost hundreds of thousands of pounds again and having to have sold a couple of my properties to keep the business going, I remember saying to myself, if things don't turn around in 2011, I'm going to close this business. And it was the worst thing that I ever wanted to do, but I gave it 2 years of losing money. And fortunately, in the middle part of 2011, our fortune started to change and started to turn, and we've been, rocking ever since. But that was the biggest challenge that definitely comes to mind. I think what's really exciting about where Rockstar Hubs now is we're really good at attracting great businesses, and I think that has a lot to do with the our marketing strategy works well. But of course, it's the mentors, it's the core of our asset, who we have on the team. And my management team is fantastic, second to none. And what's really exciting, which I think is timely and relevant to the economy now, is China. And I spend, I'm in China 3-4 times a year now. I'm not fluent in Mandarin, but I'm getting there. They're an absolute joy and a wonderful culture to work with. And here in the hub, we've now got close to 30 Chinese staff who are all responsible for helping us in attracting and bringing in new investment to fund British businesses and to fund more British jobs. And it's something that we're very, very passionate about. We have a fantastic working relationship with the fellow directors here in the hub. And the British businesses that are already in here enjoying it, it doesn't just give them access to cash and the mentors, but what we're always looking to do is to help them create their product or service to expand into the Chinese market. We're about to open our first hub in Shanghai. The market over there is just phenomenal if you can get it right. And a lot of British companies struggle with that because the culture is so different, and you really only get one shot to make it work. So I think that's one thing I wanted to talk a little bit more about, was what we're doing with the Chinese side. I mean, this little combination of two flags here sits proudly in my office. My fellow directors sit, their office is right behind this wall. We do a lot, and it's something that Britain, and especially, our government in place, want to be doing more of. And it's certainly something that we've worked out how to do, and it's working really, really well.
What are the implications to the economy for both Great Britain and China?
Yeah, well, I think from a British perspective, there is an absolute desire. I mean, statistically now, compared to the rest of Europe, the UK, from an outside investor's perspective, is something of security, and it is something now of growth. From a GDP perspective, our gross domestic product is growing at a much higher rate than Europe right now, and hopefully long may that continue. China, on the other hand, has had a very bumpy ride in the last few months. Their share price, or their share index, their equity markets dropped north of 20% on scares that the economic growth has now slowed down. And what that's prompted is the desire for Chinese investors to start diversifying more of their investments outside of China. And the UK sits a very strong place. Geographically, we're in a good position for them. Our economic growth is very strong. We are a very well-known and respected nation to the Chinese economy. And we are growing in terms of our innovation and the number of new exciting companies that are starting up here. So it's a perfect mix. It gives the Chinese investors the opportunity to invest outside of their own country, and it gives Britain the opportunity to take and welcome new opportunity and investment into the UK. And what we also want to do, as I said before, is if certain companies, and there are a couple here in the hub now, if there are certain companies who have got a very interesting product or service that's selling well in the UK, often, especially if it has connotations with Britain, then that can sell very well into China. And the difference between China and the UK is 66 million population versus 1.4 billion population. A huge market opportunity. So it's a win-win for all sides.
Do you have any final words for our viewers?
Well, firstly, thank you so much for the opportunity. Great to have a chat with you today. I think the key things are, if you're a startup, you're an entrepreneur, the most important thing I'd say is I really hope you still have the same passion you did when you first started. And if you are starting out now, you absolutely have to love what you're going to do, and that vision has to be so strong, because as you've heard from me, it's never an easy ride. You're always going to have challenges, and what keeps you going in those difficult times is that love, that passion, and that belief that you're building something or you're growing something that you know will be a massive success. And the key thing to always remember too is that you can't do all of it yourself. So the faster that you can get the right people around you and build that core team, the better you will be. And the fastest way to achieve that success, and one of the first people you should be bringing on, is a mentor, because the best way to achieve the goals you want to achieve in business is to firstly find someone who has already achieved what you want to do. And if you can go out and find them for free and get them to do it for free, then hats off to you and do that. But if you can't and you see it as an investment, then always come and check out Rockstar, because we've got some of the best mentors in the UK to help you.
It's a pleasure speaking with you, Jonathan. I mean, it's been a real insightful conversation.